this is kind of a catch-all session because I don't get to do this too often. I'm going to do some acceleration stuff, and I'm going to do some top speed stuff with the focus on exploration rather than trying to recreate a correct movement pattern or anything like that. So let's do it. My legs feel pretty good today. I have been dealing with some left knee kind of irritability, I guess. So I'm really going to watch my intensity. This is one of my first longer distance track sessions, so I'm probably not going to be doing a ton of volume. I'm realizing that I actually don't know any of the markings, and I don't have I don't have a tape measure, so I'm just gonna guess. So for acceleration work, I'm gonna set a head down constraint. I'm gonna set this, rubber band at various spot on the floor each rep. I'm gonna move it each rep to create a little bit of this repetition without repetition feeling to it. And my task goal is to naturally come up, or I guess not naturally, but come up as soon as I see that marking, right? So it's going to be a different grade of how quickly or slowly I'm going to lift my head and body up, with the goal to find and experience with plenty of variability what it feels like to come up too early or to stay patient through a longer distance. I'm a terrible judge of distance, so we'll see how it looks. I'm going to leave the mic at the camera so that I can kind of, if I need to, talk a little bit about each rep. See, that one felt so rushed. It's set up at about, a third of the way from the start. I got up so fast. I don't think I could sustain that tall position for the entirety of the 100 meters if I got up that quick. So I really extended that one out, kind of going to the opposite end. And that actually felt pretty good. Really trying to keep my head down, punching into the ground. I felt like I was pushing into the ground pretty effectively. As I'm doing this, I'm also kind of listening to how my feet are hitting the ground rather than how high my knees coming up or what my foot shape is, how much ankle dorsiflexion, plantar flexion I have. I think to me that's a lot more specifying information, because ultimately sprinting to me is all about pushing or applying force into the ground effectively, and sound is something that gives us a lot more clue or a lot more information about how that interaction is going. And that's where in plyometrics, going through this tippy plyometrics, where I'm just interacting the ground with my toes, stompy, where I'm pushing into the ground, but I'm not actually getting that force back into my body to propel myself, versus stompy or slappy, where that sound is a lot more crisp. I hit the ground and then I'm actually using that force to get up, bounce off of the ground. So I think rather than focusing internally on where exactly my legs are, my knees are, my feet are doing, my hands, my torso position, I get to kind of direct my attention to information sources that actually tells me how well I'm applying force to the ground. So sound to me is a key part of plyometrics, sprinting. Yeah. We'll just do one more. Nice. Honestly, my hammies are already starting to feel it. So I'm gonna do a few 10-meter flies. Again, 10 meters is kind of a guesstimate, but taking a similar approach of repetition without repetition, I'm going to vary the lead-in distance from somewhere from, like 2-3 meters out to 10 meters out. Each rep, I'm going to do it at slightly different lead-in with the intent to run between the cones, the defined space of 10 meters, as fast as possible. Okay, let me get set up here. So I have no idea if this is 10 meters, but close enough. Like I said, repetition without repetition, lead-in distance, but flying 10, trying to get through between these cones as quickly as possible. Okay, that's it. Just a few. Again, first day officially of like on the track workout. Honestly, I thought my body handled it pretty good. I feel things in the hammies, but in a safe way. It's a good challenge. What I'm probably going to do after this is to stop by the gym and kind of squeeze out a little bit more out of the hamstrings, provide it a different stimulus. So I might do some hamstring curls, potentially RDLs, but I think I have that planned for like a midweek workout, a little bit heavier with stiffer knee. So today, still heavy, still higher intensity, but I'm gonna do some hamstring curls after. I'm gonna hit a little bit of calves, overcoming single leg calf isometrics. I'll talk about that later when I get to the gym. Okay. I kind of forgot that I was going to do some extended bounds. So I'm just going to try to extend each stride, almost feeling like a more of a jumping type of movement. But again, I'm going to kind of extend that to about 50 meters. I'm going to start at this curve, and I might come back going into the curve in the opposite direction. Yeah. So even at kind of sub-maximal speed, I'm feeling those in my shins, especially when I get to extend it. When I work out at the gym, the distance is definitely the biggest limiting factor. So to be able to continue and keep going past whatever the distance I have at the gym and to kind of really extend that, it feels nice. Kind of challenging, but it's good. I'm going to do 2 more. Oof, that last one. I just didn't feel like I could sustain it. I could feel my legs kind of collapsing underneath me. So I need to be doing this more of an extended bounds, extended plyometrics, and gradually building up, leg pickup height, which will increase the force hitting into the ground, as well as the distance of each jump, or speed, I guess. But I think that was nice. Extended plyometric, locomotive, super fun. I think I'm just gonna finish with one 400 meter, nice and easy run. Just squeeze a little bit more out of my legs before I go back to the gym and do some hamstring curls, and ankle, plantar flexion, isometrics. Just one last 400. I'm just gonna do like 1 to 2 warm-up sets, relatively easy. Get to a point where I can do 2 sets of 6 at about 8 or 9, maybe even 10. Honestly, I haven't used this machine much at all, so I have no idea what kind of weight I'm gonna be working at. But that was too easy. Better. The pad is quite uncomfortable, but the way it's set up right now, I like how it drops off a little bit in kind of the torque, I guess, at the top of this weight, because it kind of comes back towards the center of axis, which is kind of nice because I can actually get full range of motion, bringing that heel as close to the butt as possible. Pretty good weight. I think I'm gonna stay here, but instead of going up in weight, I'm just gonna go try to hit 6. No, let's just go up by 10 pounds. Yeah, the pad is really uncomfortable. Might try to get like a foam pad here. Okay, so I think this is a good weight, so I'm going to just trying to hit 9 or 10. I want to kind of get to a point where I can't do the full range, so hopefully I don't go past 10. We'll see. I'll do one more set. With machines like this, it's very not obvious, but I'm trying to slightly change the width of my legs. I am biased towards prioritizing variability, or at least injecting variability in different places. And because I'm on a machine, I don't have to worry too much about intensity anchor being compromised, because I'm not worried about balance. I'm not worried about, different setup being uncomfortable. I check some boxes where, like, okay, if my thighs are uncomfortable, my intensity is going to go down. I don't feel stable here, then my intensity is going to go down. But most everything else, slight change in the width at which my legs are situated, those things shouldn't compromise the intensity so much. If anything, I want to make sure I'm strong enough from not just one position of the hamstrings, but variety of hamstring slight angles. It's very tiny nuances of each movement. Not that it probably doesn't make that big of a difference, but it also doesn't hurt because I'm not compromising intensity, right? I'm trying to hit 9, RPE 9, RPE 10, getting to some of those partials. So I feel confident enough that I'm sending enough stimulus to the hamstrings. And a little variability, again, it can only help in my perspective, from my perspective. One more set. Okay, that's hamstring curls. I'll finish with some standing plantar flexion overcoming isometrics. I'll set it up over there, just like 2 or 3 sets. Oof, this is a tough angle, but we'll see. Short and sweet to finish up in the gym, just hitting some key parts to consolidate the stress to important areas like hamstrings and calf, Achilles, ankle. I'm going to have a secondary high day where I'll be doing a little bit more higher intensity plyometrics. I can only go out to the track once a week, probably schedule-wise at most. So the secondary high day is going to be, either in the parking lot or on the turf, which will feel different, but nonetheless, the key is just learning how to interact with the ground in a way that produces, high levels of force into the ground, and, that turns into speed. Ideally, I can buy my own speed gates so that I can take those out onto the track, because obviously timing would add another layer of constraints where I can set some thresholds in terms of, as I'm doing these constraints-led plyometric or acceleration or top speed activities, I can set a goal threshold for time, whether that's 70%, 80%, 90% of my PR speed. That way I know for sure that the intensity isn't being compromised as I work through these activities, because ultimately speed is the problem we're trying to solve. I'm just exploring the degeneracy or redundancy around how I can create that speed for myself. That to me is the crux of nonlinear pedagogical approach to linear speed. At the same time, being able to layer in representativeness in terms of starting positions, sounds, right? You're always going to be accelerating off of a, auditory cue. So incorporating things like that, I'm just trying to figure out how I can do that in terms of just pragmatically. I was looking for an app or something. I haven't been able to find one. But I think the speed gate I'm looking at has that type of capabilities. As well as, if I can get training partners, I can create a racing constraint, which is which would be a lot more representative than just, sprinting as fast as I can by myself. Although from my perspective, opponents aren't the most specifying information. It's, if anything, obviously you're competing against other people in different lanes, but those to me are non-specifying information or distractions, if anything, for me to be able to run my own race, because ultimately that's what matters. But being able to create complexity around racing situations, turning up the representativeness, would be really, really helpful if track is the end goal sport. Otherwise, when I can't get representative, I'm going to turn up the notch in terms of variability and exploration. So that's kind of what you saw today, with intent on working through some acceleration stuff, working through some top speed stuff, and then a little bit more capacity-based work at the end of the track session, as well as in the gym. All right.